The fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, marks one of the most significant events in modern history, symbolizing the end of the Cold War and the division between East and West. The Berlin Wall, a concrete barrier that divided East and West Berlin, was more than just a physical structure. It represented the ideological and political rift between the Communist Eastern Bloc, led by the Soviet Union, and the democratic Western nations, spearheaded by the United States and its allies. To fully understand why the wall fell, we must first dive into its origins, its impact on the people, and the growing forces that led to its eventual collapse. The origins of the Berlin Wall. After World War II, Germany was divided into 4 zones, controlled by the US, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin, the capital, which lay deep in the Soviet zone, was also divided. Tensions between the Soviet Union and Western powers intensified, leading to the Cold War. In 1949, the Western zones merged to form West Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, while the Soviet-controlled zone became East Germany, the German Democratic Republic or GDR. West Berlin, a democratic enclave within Communist East Germany, became a focal point of Cold War tensions. Over the years, millions of East Germans fled to the west through Berlin, seeking freedom from an oppressive regime. To stem the exodus, the GDR government, with Soviet approval, erected the Berlin Wall on August 13, 1961. This 96-mile-long barrier became a stark symbol of the Iron Curtain that divided Europe. Life behind the wall. The Berlin Wall separated families, friends, and neighbors overnight, plunging East Berlin into isolation. East Germany, a strict communist state, heavily restricted freedom of speech, movement, and personal expression. The wall stood as a reminder that escape to the west was not an option for the majority. Thousands of border guards, barbed wire, and automatic firing devices ensured that anyone attempting to cross the wall would face severe consequences, often death. Nevertheless, many East Germans made daring attempts to flee, using tunnels, hot air balloons, or even swimming across rivers, with some succeeding but many tragically failing. For nearly 3 decades, the wall reinforced the deep-seated division between 2 ideologically opposed worlds. Economic decline and political pressures. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the Soviet Union's grip on Eastern Europe began to weaken. Economic stagnation plagued the Eastern Bloc, while countries in Western Europe thrived. East Germany's centralized economy faltered, leading to shortages of goods, poor living conditions, and growing dissatisfaction. Meanwhile, reform movements in neighboring Eastern European nations, like Poland's Solidarity movement, and the broader influence of Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev's policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, ignited hope for change. Gorbachev, unlike his predecessors, was more open to political reform, and his policies signaled to Eastern Bloc countries that the Soviet Union would no longer intervene militarily to prop up communist governments. This gave the people of Eastern Europe, including East Germans, the courage to demand greater freedoms. The rise of protests in East Germany. By the late 1980s, East Germans were fed up with their government's refusal to adopt reforms. In the summer and fall of 1989, mass protests broke out across the country, with Leipzig at the epicenter. These Monday demonstrations drew tens of thousands of citizens, chanting for freedom and democracy. The East German leadership, headed by hardline communist Erich Honecker, was reluctant to yield to public pressure. However, the sheer size and persistence of the protests made it clear that change was inevitable. Additionally, thousands of East Germans sought refuge in West German embassies across Eastern Europe, further straining the regime. Honecker's government soon realized that it could no longer maintain control by force. The mistake that changed history. On November 9, 1989, a fateful mistake hastened the fall of the wall. That evening, a government official, Günter Schabowski, held a press conference to announce new travel regulations for East Germans. The intention was to relax restrictions gradually, allowing East Germans to apply for visas to travel abroad. However, Schabowski, unclear on the details, mistakenly announced that the borders were open immediately. This announcement, broadcast live on television, spread like wildfire. Within hours, thousands of East Berliners gathered at border checkpoints, demanding to be let through. The overwhelmed and confused border guards, unsure of how to respond, eventually opened the gates. The night the wall came down. That night, November 9, 1989, thousands of East and West Berliners swarmed the Berlin Wall, celebrating in a moment of pure euphoria. They climbed atop the wall, danced, sang, and began chipping away at the structure that had divided them for so long. The scenes of joy and unity were broadcast across the world, and the fall of the wall became a symbol of hope and freedom. People who had been separated for decades embraced each other, while many began literally tearing down the wall with their bare hands. What started as a mistake by an uninformed official turned into one of the most dramatic events of the 20th century. The aftermath and German reunification. The fall of the Berlin Wall was not just the end of a physical barrier but the beginning of the end for East Germany and the communist regimes in Eastern Europe. In the months that followed, East and West Germany began the process of reunification, which culminated on October 3, 1990, when Germany was officially reunited as one country. The reunification was not without its challenges. East Germany's economy was deeply inefficient, and integrating it with the prosperous West required massive financial investments. Socially, many East Germans struggled with the rapid changes in their lives, from adjusting to new political freedoms to adapting to a market economy. Nevertheless, the fall of the wall set the stage for a united, democratic Germany, while it also signaled the end of the Cold War and the broader collapse of communism across Eastern Europe. The global significance of the wall's fall. The fall of the Berlin Wall had profound global implications. It marked the collapse of the division between East and West that had defined the post-World War II era. It also set in motion the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which would formally occur in 1991. For the world, the wall's collapse represented the triumph of democracy and human rights over authoritarianism and oppression. The wall's fall became a universal symbol of the power of people to overcome oppressive regimes through peaceful means. Even today, the fall of the Berlin Wall stands as a reminder of the resilience of human spirit and the desire for freedom that transcends borders and ideologies. A defining moment of unity. The fall of the Berlin Wall was a defining moment not just for Germany, but for the world. It demonstrated that even the most entrenched divisions could be overcome by the collective will of ordinary people. The wall, once a symbol of oppression and division, is now remembered as the site where freedom and unity prevailed. Today, remnants of the wall still stand in Berlin, not as a reminder of division, but as a testament to the power of hope, courage, and the human desire for freedom. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos.